I'm Andre Huey, and this is the best of the WINN Weekender. The WINN Weekender started in March 2014. The response has been overwhelming, with an average of 10,000 views per week, with almost 50,000 views in one episode. We want to relive some of those reports that stood out on the Weekender over the last few months. This week, we feature the month of April. We start with the bouncing of government salary checks for Nevis civil servants.
My fellow citizens, my fellow Nevisians, I wish on behalf of the Nevis Island administration to apologize to the Nevis public servants for the inconvenience caused today when they did not get their salaries as expected. This has been a very stressful and traumatic and embarrassing experience for me and for the administration. But I believe it has been a source of embarrassment and concern for all the employees of the government, but also of all the people of Nevis, and by extension, the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
The financial crisis facing the smaller partner in the Federation has been described as economic terrorism. That label was slapped on the crisis by Deputy Premier Mark Brantley when he spoke on WINN FM's Voices program Thursday.
The people of Nevis suffered a really terrible blow, something that we are referring to as economic terrorism, because we think that's exactly what happened yesterday. What happened was, of course, our civil servants, our public servants, some 1,800 families yesterday were deprived and denied an opportunity to get the money that they had earned from working for the government or in various departments. We thought it was incredibly unfortunate. Indeed, unfortunate might not even be the strength of language that ought to be employed, to see that a financial institution could so conduct its affairs that it could cause that level of harm and hardship to the people of Nevis.
According to the Deputy Premier, there's a deliberate attempt to undermine the legitimately elected NIA.
We took office on the 22nd of January 2013, and there has been since then a clear and consistent effort to undermine, to derail, and to upset the progress of the island of Nevis. Some have apparently decided, Andre, that they do not like the government in Nevis. They do not like the party that comprises the government in Nevis. And as a consequence, they have determined that their friends in Nevis, the party that they favor, ought to be given prominence. And as a consequence, that every step and every effort must be made to embarrass and cause harm to the government of Nevis and by extension its people. I want to go on record as saying that these efforts are not harming the government. The 1,800 workers who did not get paid yesterday are not necessarily CCM or NRP. They're probably both and perhaps none at all. They are Kittitians, they are Nevisians, they are our own brothers and sisters, they have children, they have grandparents who rely on them. They have to buy food, they have to pay for electricity, they have to shop in the supermarkets. Indeed, the economic outfall from yesterday is tremendous.
According to the Premier's deputy, the CCM administration realized when it got into office that some budgetary support was being provided to the previous Nevis Island administration regime by the federal government. Brantley says that was cut off as soon as the CCM took office, with no explanation. He also referred to a Treasury bill guarantee from the federal government that indicated had been standard procedure during the rule of the NRP, suddenly no longer being afforded the NIA when CCM took over. I'm Ken Richards for the WINN Weekender.
We continue with a report from the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority, SCASPA, on the accident claiming the lives of two SCASPA workers at the cruise pier in April.
Minister with responsibility for the Air and Seaports Authority, Senator Richard Skerritt, made a brief statement to the press on Thursday afternoon.
It took place in the berthing area of the Port Zante cruise pier when a small motor vessel capsized, resulting in the deaths of the two persons on board, Mr. Rudolph Dowell Daniel of Ponds Extension and Mr. Maxwell Brown of New Road. The bodies of Mr. Dowell Daniel and Mr. Brown were retrieved by divers from the area where the vessel capsized. The deceased Scaspa employee, Mr. Dowell Daniel, with the support of the launch captain, Mr. Brown, had been in the process of releasing lines for the 5 p.m. departure of one of the 2 cruise ships which visited our port yesterday.
Minister Skerritt indicated that the cruise line would be providing support to the investigation.
Shortly after yesterday's incident, I engaged by telephone with a senior official of the ship's owners in Miami, Florida, who have pledged to do all they can to assist local police with the investigations related to this horrible incident. Video footage from the security camera system of the second berthed cruise ship, which was due to leave port 1 hour later, will be made available by early next week for review by the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force. I'm also aware that the masters of both ships have already emailed their written reports on the incident. I must also let you know that 2 maritime safety officials of Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, the owners of the 2 cruise ships, are expected to arrive here within the next few days to assist police and maritime officials with the local investigation, which is ongoing.
Eyewitnesses say that the ship either clipped the smaller vessel or it was struck by a rope. The press was told that as the incident was under investigation, no questions would be entertained following the briefing, but that questions could be sent in writing to the Corporate Affairs and Public Relations Department. As such, WINN FM has written to the authority to inquire about, among other things, the training of pilots at the port, whether the pilot in the wheelhouse on Thursday afternoon had given full clearance for the boat to pull away from the berth, and what procedures are used before a vessel unberths. Meantime, at Thursday's press briefing, Minister Skerritt also gave an update on the investigation into the death of Scaspa maintenance worker Askio Farrell, also known as Askio Williams, whose body was found in an elevator shaft at the RLB airport on Sunday.
Mr. Williams had last been on scheduled duty for Scaspa on Friday and had been reported missing over the weekend by his family. As you know, the first media release on that incident was made on Sunday afternoon by the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, who are still in the process of conducting their investigation into circumstances which led to the death of Mr. Williams.
An autopsy conducted on Sunday indicates that he died from trauma due to crushed ribs.
Scaspa management made contact on Monday, the day after the body was discovered, with a company in North America that specializes in risk assessment surveys for the insurance industry. This company comes highly recommended by Scaspa's insurance brokers, RMIG, and is completely independent. An expert from that company is scheduled to arrive on St. Kitts tomorrow, Friday, for an initial period of 5 days, during which time he will be conducting interviews and gathering information required for his review and analysis.
The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, had a positive report on the St. Kitts Nevis economy in April, but critics of the government, such as economist Vernon Harris, said he does not see this progress being manifested in the country.
A strong critic of the Prime Minister and his administration, Harris describes the latest IMF report as a feel-good one, not being translated on the ground into improved production or an increase in employment opportunities, contributing to economic growth and development.
I'm not seeing it translated in productive areas. I'm not seeing growth in agriculture, and I've seen a growth in production. And the IMF, as usual, is concentrating on the areas in which they are benefiting. The loans are being repaid, so they feel happy about that. Is there any increase in employment? Is there an increase in agriculture? Is there an increase in fisheries? Are there any increase in the real outputs which will contribute to economic growth and development? There are none.
In the case of agriculture, the government reported last month that there has been a 15% increase in agricultural production. However, the concerns held by economist Harris about positive figures being quoted by the IMF not somehow reflecting the reality on the ground is also a concern for former government minister Dwyer Astafan, who has held a number of portfolios including tourism and national security. According to Astafan, the suffering of the people continues.
The bottom line here is while all of this nice stuff is happening, we're having problems at our schools and our hospitals. While all of this, and I see an indication here that there was an increase in 10-point-something% in jobs. Well, we know that includes PEP jobs, which are temporary jobs. And it may well include some of these jobs held on the Southeast Peninsula and other places by people who are not even recorded in our social security system. So that's an exercise in artificiality to make the data look good, while the police need cars, the schools are having problems, the hospital, the health sector, a number of other things. So while one is always happy if an economy is going in the right direction, I am not persuaded that ours is.
However, as far as financial analyst Neidman Warner, who spoke to WINN FM earlier, is concerned, the IMF report does indicate that the country has recorded a good economic performance. He says the report is encouraging for the Federation. Dwyer Astafan maintains, however, that good economic performance should be experienced by the people on the ground. I'm Ken Richards for the WINN Weekender.
The Fire and Rescue Services continued its appeal in April for persons, especially in rural St. Kitts, not to start fires without permission, as this is creating a dangerous threat to property and lives. Thank you for watching this edition of the Best of the WINN Weekender. I'm Andre Huey. Join us next week for more.